Yeah, my name's Jamie Houldsworth, and I'm representing myself.
Thank you.
I would like to take this opportunity to thank the panel to allow me to make this presentation here today. But what I would like to do here now is actually change the mindset of the way you're thinking on the way you're looking at this and look at it from a community point of view. What are the benefits for the community? So I would ask you all to ask yourself what the benefits are. Dr. Ritchie, you said in the last presentation that employment is one of them, and employment is one of the major pushes. Is that really a benefit to the local community or to FIFO, interstate people coming in, living in camps, not putting any money into the local economy? So some of the things you might have come up with are employment, training opportunities, economic growth for the local community. Well, these are all very good reasons, and I would agree that they are good reasons. But does this really benefit the local community? Let's have a look at one of the biggest projects at the moment in Australia and in the Southern Hemisphere of the IMPEX project here in Darwin. At the moment, we have 9,000 people employed out there. Of those 9,000, there is only 28% are locals. And are they true locals? Now, the reason I ask, are they true locals, a lot of them have changed addresses for territory addresses so they could get jobs as locals. Training opportunities. Yes, there was a lot of training opportunities in the beginning out at IMPEX. A lot of training opportunities. Try and get an apprentice on there now. Try to get a traineeship out there now. There are no training opportunities. That project is going to be an ongoing running of the next 50 years. There is still no training for local people. There is still nothing put in writing to guarantee that locals are going to get training over the next 50 years of the operation of that plant. And then we move on to the camps. There are a total of 5 camps and various hotels within Darwin region that actually host about 6,500 of the non-locals that are employed at IMPEX. Majority of which get bused to site. So let's have a look at their day. Up about 4:30ish, get on the bus about 5:30ish, get back home, do the day work out on site, in jail, as I like to call it, because you can't go off site, you're on site, you're locked in there, and then get back on the bus, get home about 6ish. Right, so that's about 14 hours. You're looking at 14 hours there already, and then to have dinner. So are you going to go to a local restaurant? Are you going to go to somewhere like that? No, you're going to go to the camp mess. The camp mess where you don't have to leave camp. Everything that you could need is on camp. From the ability to buy alcohol, the ability to eat, drink, go to a gym, play tennis, whatever you want, all of that's already on camp. So where is the benefit for the local community there? So then that leaves you 2 hours. Let's say you sleep for 8 hours. It leaves you 2 hours to go and do those duties, or go and do those extracurricular activities you might have, and then move on. Once again, still not socialising with the local community. All you have to do is walk down Smith Street Mall. Smith Street Mall, a lot of shops are closing. A lot of businesses, good businesses, local businesses are closing. In the middle of, we got 9,000 people that are apparently going to support the local economy, or were supposed to support the local economy. Businesses are closing their doors as we speak because they are not being supported. Drive through Manelli, a lot of businesses, a lot of commercial businesses are actually closing up, moving on, moving out. This is not the jobs here anymore. Not to mention, we can go on the rosters. I know it's been mentioned a couple of times at rosters. The rosters out at IMPEX are 4 and 1. The saying is 4 and 1 brings family undone. Right? Now that is whether one partner is working out there for 4 weeks, 1 week off. Just that stress of being away from the family, that family support network, and the mental implications that would give. So on that note, I'm going to ask the panel to think outside the box when you're making your decision. Do not succumb to government pressures. Do not succumb to big businesses or gas businesses that that want this for whatever reasons that they have, but it is not for the benefit of local communities. If anyone believes that the pipeline is for the benefit of local communities, they're pulling the wool over your eyes. It is not what it's about. So do not succumb to the government pressure, the big businesses, or what they have to offer you. Or I would like you all to base your recommendations on what is best in the best interest of the Territorians and the local community. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Houldsworth, have you had some personal involvement with INPEX? Have you been working there? Or?
I haven't worked there. I know a lot of people that have. I know a lot of people that do. And I know a lot of people that have had families destroyed from working on major projects, yes.
No, I understand that. I just need to correct one thing that you said about, I think your words were making the decision. I'm not sure whether or not you're referring to the lifting of the moratorium, but if you were, that's a government decision, that's not our decision.
On making your recommendations.
Oh, thank you, sorry, I just wanted to clarify that. All right, does anyone have any questions for Mr. Houldsworth? Yes, Dr. Jones.
Your last comments were directed towards the gas pipeline. That was a very short part of your presentation, but what is your, I guess, evidence for saying that the gas pipeline is not what it appears in terms of local prospects? I think that's the reading, maybe putting words in your mouth or reading between the lines.
We can look at CSG over in the Surat Basin. Now, over there, once again, they were camps that were built, that people flew in from Brisbane, right, to build those pipelines, to build the power lines, to build all the infrastructure. So therefore, based on historics alone of any major projects, it's a majority of it's FIFO, so therefore the FIFO work is not benefiting the local community and is not giving employment to locals.
Yes, Professor Hart.
Could I just bring it back to the positive? You made a good case there for at least INPEX not putting enough back into the community. So let me put it back, because you're imploring us, recommending that we take much more notice of what are the benefits locally. So what should we take into consideration? What recommendations, requirements, legislation, whatever, to make that better?
Well, there would have to be stuff along the lines of buying local, supporting locals. Okay. There have to be a percentage of your employment force, and not a small percentage, quite a large percentage, that would have to be actual locals.
A requirement?
A requirement, yep. And I would also say that another requirement would be Indigenous employment, and a large percentage of Indigenous employment, and the training opportunities that come along with those benefits.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Dr. Jones.
Do you have any indication of what the ongoing workforce will be at the INPEX plant when it actually gets running? Because certainly we've seen billion-dollar plants in the gas fields that are run by 2 people.
They're talking about 500 people on a 24-hour rotating roster.
Any further questions? Yes, Dr. Anderson.
Yeah, look, thanks for your presentation. And so I'm just trying to think of what a FIFO might look like in say, the Beetaloo, if that's if government lifts the moratorium and that's where it happens. And you've got existing little towns like Daly Waters and Elliot. What would be your recommendation in terms of providing labour force? Would it be to develop those towns, so truly local, or would it be more to develop Catherine, Tennant Creek, and have them the FIFO? Or what are your thoughts there?
Well,
or drive
out. A little bit put on the spot, but like I suppose the thing would be about sustainability. Like wherever you build or wherever the infrastructure is, can it be maintained and will it be used in the future after the construction's done? One of the ones is Darwin LNG, when it was built in the mid-90s. It's currently now getting built into a shopping centre, but it sat vacant for years. All the infrastructure was still left there after they did the camp. out there. So Yarrawonga, you had a big bit of land that had all the infrastructure that was there, that then wasn't used. As soon as Darwin LNG finished and the Conoco plant was up and running, it wasn't used anymore. It was just a ghost town. So it'd be about building wherever it's going to be used in the best interest of the community in the future.
Yes, Ms. Gorham.
Thank you for your presentation. I was very interested to hear about the absence of local benefits to the community. But in our submissions, we've also heard a lot about the potential negative impacts on the community, so associated with the fee flow workforce, so, you know, increased levels of crime, drugs, prostitution, those sorts of things. Do you see any of that associated with the fee flow workforce for impacts?
I suppose my answer to that would be none of them I'm aware of, or not that I'm aware of. What my answer there would be is the fact is, as I just stated, if you're doing 14 hours and you got to get up and you got to go to work the next day, where are you going to get the time? Where are you going to get the time to actually go out and do anything else? Where are you going to get the time to actually support the local community?
Thank you.
Sorry, Dr. Ritchie.
Mr. Houldsworth, one of the those of us that live here, we know that this whole economy is boom bust, so we're kind of used to it. So when this waterfront's being built, there's people always coming in from outside. The government contracts usually have a local content component, and so there are some benefits from it, even if a lot of people are coming in out of the town. But from what I gather from your submission is that it's not that we just don't get benefits from this, but there's actually a sort of a social harm that comes from these industries. And I just think of if you were here for the previous presentation, that the idea of having the first thing is that you make sure that there's no harm to a community before you then start looking at enhancements. And I think is that pretty much just saying that it's not just that we don't get a benefit from it, but we can actually do ourselves harm from this. There's a negative.
Yep, there's definitely a huge negative.
Okay, and would you just because this is very valuable to us because it's your experience is personal and from your friends and peers that are out in this. How do you see how's it manifested in your experience in your sort of social network? How's the harm sort of?
Well, I suppose a lot of the harms, a lot of it's from the rosters. The time away, away from and you can negate that by actually using locals. So by actually using a local workforce, an actual proper localised workforce, not a fake localised workforce, you're actually negating a lot of those issues because they're going to be home every day, they're going to be home every night. So therefore you're negating the fact that they're away from families for long periods of time, that they've got a spouse that is trying to raise their children or raise their family. In what was normally a two-parent household, that is now a single-parent household because one partner's away for lengthy periods of time.
Thanks.
Dr. Smith.
Thanks very much for your good points and that discussion about particularly FIFO workforces and positives and negatives, and that's very much how resource industry tends to be structured these days, but that wasn't always the case. And in the history of resource industries in Australia, localised resource-based communities were very much a tradition. Do you think there are examples where developing dedicated communities for development of a new resource industry could be net beneficial? Or do you think that almost any large resource is going to have an overwhelming negative outcome?
Probably the answer, you're going to get there's going to be negatives and positives with whatever way it goes, whatever happens with the construction phases. There's always going to be negatives and there's always going to be positives. But at the end of the day, we just need to make sure that the positives far outweigh the negatives and don't leave a negative impact for our future generations.
What do you see as some of those positives?
Some of the positives, as in
We said there's always going to be negatives and positives, so what are the
From a FIFO
positives?
perspective or from
Well,
a...
just generally then, I guess, from this industry.
The positives would be, the positives that I would look at is that if it was a localised workforce,
Okay.
you're actually using locals. You're actually upskilling your local Territorians. You're actually going to bring more people to the territory to actually live. Which is all positives, obviously, at the end. Whereas your negatives on your FIFO stuff is when they fly in, they don't spend any money. There's a raft of people that I know that do FIFO, and they've admitted to me that they haven't spent $1. Like some of them work in Scrap Basin, they have not spent $1. They do not spend $1 in any of the communities there. They got on the plane, onto a bus, into camp, from camp, onto the bus, back onto the plane, back into Brisbane before they spent $1.
That's fair enough. Yes, David, Dr. Jones.
We visited the big CSG operations last week, and Roma and Children were speaking to the local councils and so on. And this was a very salient issue, and their roster system there seems to be 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. And one of the local mayors actually told us that they actually have the power in their jurisdiction to mandate the working week. So they basically said, you shall not work on a Sunday or whatever. And so that was a really empowering thing in terms of forcing interaction with the local community and also reducing the ease of implementing a FIFO type of workforce. What do you think about that kind of thing? I think the 4-week, 1 week is really punishing on people, I would think.
Yeah, but the other thing you'll have on that, they've got a similar thing out there. It's a 6-day week. Sundays are optional. You must have one Sunday off every fortnight. So virtually, it's not actually forced either to have those Sundays off. It's not actually forced to actually not work those days. So I'm not sure of the actual example that you're using, but the question there would be, what were they doing on their days off then? Were they actually interacting with the local community and actually supporting the local community, or were they sitting in camp doing stuff and in camp? So therefore, how were they benefiting the local community?
We didn't actually receive much information about how they were interacting with the local community, but I guess the council was trying to do as much as it could to try and put a break on this type of practice.
Anyone else? Mr. Houldsworth, thank you very much for your very informative and thought-provoking presentation. It's been very much appreciated. Thank you.